here we have a Google drawing and a list. This list is what you're going to be expected to incorporate in your 3 Google Doc drawings for exercise 3. So I want to go over 3 student examples with you, and we're just going to briefly run through them. And so just kind of hold on and let's see if they match up to what they should be. There's good repetition. Where do we see it? We see it in the circles. The different sizes creates good variation. Also, we see it in the diagonal lines going 3 across out to the upper right hand corner and then 1 going across this way, which does create variation. And then we also see it echoing in the background back here, but going straight across horizontally. This all creates unity and harmony when we have the variation, the repetition of the shapes and the diagonal lines that we have going here. Dominance and subordination, they created that through color saturation. You can see that the most dominant thing right here is the square. Our eyes are also brought to it because it is the only square that's within the composition, and it's very intensified. The more saturated the circles go off into the distance, they become more subordinate and set off into the background. Now, the placement of the focal point is excellent for the golden section. We see really good overlapping with these lines and circles, creating some really nice negative shapes, and running those circles off of the format also creates some nice negative shapes. They have an excellent, good range of value. Now, this next composition, we see that there's immediately repetition and variation in the circles, good overlapping. And the thing that is not quite right is the focal point. The focal point should be over here, right about in this area, to meet that golden section or the rule of thirds. But excellent color saturation. The most saturated color is the focal point, making it the most dominant thing that our eyes are drawn to, and these become more subordinate as they go off into the background. And our third example, we see that, to me, I think this is probably one of the strongest ones. The reason for that is excellent placement of the focal point. Very, very intensified. As we look off into the background, everything becomes more saturated, more set off, more dull. I love the variation of the circles as they go off into the distance. Not only do we feel like there's depth here because they get smaller as they go off, but because they become not as intensified, more saturated, and they set off back into the distance. I love the repetition of the vertical lines. I like how some of them run straight off of the format, creating some negative shapes. And I like the variation of the lines, some of them at different lengths going at different points, some of them with 3 together and some only 1 by themselves. And probably one of my most favorite things about this composition is I like how they've overlapped things and then having these large oval circles running off the format, and they become one of the least saturated, one of the most subordinate pieces, but by running them off, they create these really interesting negative shapes in the background. These are the things that I'm looking for in your compositions. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.